Hi, welcome to part 3 of this short course. Now we left off having one table shape here created using the kind of offset method, and we then filleted the corners together to tidy things up. Now we briefly looked at the object snaps. Let's say we wanted to copy this table from this corner to this corner, so we ended up with another one up here. So we use the copy command, which shortens to CP. Helps if you spell it right. CP and return. And it's saying down in the command prompt what to do next. So we select the 4 lines that make up the table, and when you're happy with your selection, you press return. So you keep an eye on the number that it shows here, so that it's the right number. If it says 3, there wouldn't be enough. If it said 5, you've got an extra line in there. Okay, but if you're happy with the number, just press return again, and then the object snaps come to life. They're saying where do you want to copy from and to. So if we want to go accurately from corner to corner, we'd be looking for an end point or an intersection here. Now, if it doesn't give you the intersection, the object snap that you want, you can press the tab key with a short pause between each press. So you tap the tab key and it cycles through the object snaps. So it's basically going from endpoint to nearest. We've got intersection there. Okay, a perpendicular is showing up. Okay, so it's looking through the objects, looking for the object snaps. You basically stop pressing tab once it gets to the object snap that you want. Then you'll use your left mouse button to accept that point. Okay, if I take ortho off midway through the command, you can see that I've got the shape stuck on my cursor. Okay, so if I copied it to here, I would end up with 2 lines in the same place, which isn't great. Let's copy it to here. So we've got the diagonal position, and that's exact. Press return if you don't want to copy anymore. Okay, so those 2 objects meet exactly at the corners. There's no guesswork. Let's just delete the last one that we did. Take away the lines. I did 2 separate deletes there. Okay, so we're going to do something related, but not exactly the same. And what I want to do is draw the table in line with this wall. Okay, so that one's easy because it's just sitting there in space. No problem. Drawing one in line with this wall offers up a few more problems. And we can do this in 2 ways. We can either draw it using lines that are already here, or we can change our orientation to the drawing, and that will allow us to create the table perpendicular to the wall, or parallel with the wall. Let's start off with a kind of a fairly basic way. We'll use a line that's already here to start off our table. So we offset, so it's O return, and the offset distance happens to be the right number, so I can press return again. Now it's asking me to pick a line, so I'm going to go for the yellow line of this internal wall. Move to the side you want to copy it on, so we're going into the room, and pick again. Okay, press escape because we want to change this line now onto the furniture layer. It's not on the furniture layer at the moment. Hover over it and you can see that it's saying it's on layer walls internal. So you click the object, and if you're just changing between layers, you can drop this list down and pick the name you want to go to. Okay, I'll just show you another method of doing that, and that's using the change command. So you can bring this up at any time. It brings up the properties panel, so CH and return. Okay, I'll just resize this because it's a wee bit big. Okay, and bring it onto the screen so you can see it. Okay, now I happen to have had an object selected before I launched the command. It's not necessarily the same every time. So press escape and you'll see that it's saying that the current layer is furniture. We haven't got anything selected. Now you can pick an object. It says that it's on layer walls internal. There's no drop down list there until you click in the slot. Then the drop down arrow appears and you pick layer fern. So this change properties is useful if you're wanting to change other things at the same time. Just so happens we only wanted to change the layer. So press escape now, that gets rid of the grips, and you can close the dialog box. Okay, so we've got the line on the correct layer now. Now what we want to do is draw from somewhere on this line back perpendicular to this wall. So it's L, return, and the nearest object snap is letting us go from anywhere on the line. Select, take your cursor to approximately perpendicular, and it will then give you the perpendicular object snap. So you see, if you move away from the perpendicular point, it moves to nearest. Okay, go roughly near the perpendicular point, and it should show up the perpendicular object snap icon. Left click again, then press return. Okay, so it's table starting to take shape. Now we need the other side of the table. So we use offset, so it's O, return, 1200, return, pick the new line, go above and pick again. Okay, now we've just got a bit of tidying up to do. So press escape to get rid of offset, and then we now fill it. So it's F, return, and we pick the bits of the lines we want to end up with. Okay, this is rubbish, this is rubbish. So the bits I want to keep are here and here. Press return. I want to keep this bit and that bit. Okay, now that looks like it would be a bit of worktop. Okay, now if it was going to be a table, there should be another line here, a green line there. So we would offset this back the way by 750. So O, return, 750, return, pick the green line, go this side and pick again. Okay, press escape to stop the offset command. Now in printing terms, we've got a bit of a problem here that we have a line on top of a line. Okay, ideally the yellow line should show above, because this line should print with a thicker line weight, because it's structural in a way. Okay, it's semi-structural, it's the wall lining. This is the main structure in white. Okay, now to make this line, make the yellow line show up above the green line, what we do use a command called draw order, and you use DR for that. DR, return, pick the green line and return, and the default option is back, which means it's going to send it to the back of the drawing. So you return again, and hopefully you saw that the yellow popped up above the green now. Okay, so things should print properly, but we still have 4 lines making up our table. Okay, that's a fairly basic way, and you'll get away with that for most things, but if you were doing a lot of work in line with this wall, then really you should change your alignment to the object. Okay, we don't rotate the plan. That would make things, get out of control. What we do is we rotate our view in relation to the drawing. And we do this by changing the coordinate system. And this icon over here in the corner of the screen is called the UCS icon, and that stands for User Defined Coordinate System. At the moment it's set to the default, which is called the World Coordinate System, and because of that there's a small square in the middle. When we're in one that we decide, the little square disappears. So let's say we wanted to align ourselves with this wall. What we do is UCS and return, and we want to pick an object on screen. So we've got an OB option, so you can click the blue bits, these are all mini hyperlinks, and then it says which line do you want to align yourself with. And you see, if I go, depending on where I pick on the object, the UCS axes change position. Now this end would be a more sensible one. Okay, you'll see why in a second. So if I click that end, my coordinate system is now lined up with that wall. What you tend to do is follow this with the plan command. So it's plan and return twice, and that will turn us in relation to the plan. Okay, now we can zoom in and see where we were working, and you'll see that this line is now horizontal to us. It's much easier to design and work now we're in the right orientation. I could use the rectangle command now, start it somewhere along the wall, and remember what we typed in last time, it was at 1200, 750, and return. Now once again, the green, because it's the most recent object in the scene, the green is showing up above the yellow. So we would draw order this, dr, return, pick the table, and return twice. That puts the yellow back on top. Now if this was a UCS, an orientation that I was going to come back to again and again, I could save it into the drawing. And you do that with UCS, return, S, which doesn't show up as an option, you can see there, return, and give it a name. Then, so let's call it wall 1. Okay, the UCS has been saved in the drawing. If we want to go back to normal, in inverted commas, type UCS and return twice, then plan and return twice. Okay, everything seems back to normal. But inside the drawing there is a coordinate system now saved, and you can bring that back up using DD UCS. The DD just stands for dialog box. You see there I've got a wall 1, I've got a named UCS, I can click it, set current, OK. Okay, so the UCS has changed, and then you do plan and return twice. Okay, so it's a good habit to get into. If you think you're going to use that again, save it into the drawing. It saves you doing the setup and possibly getting it wrong. Okay, remember the backtracking is UCS, return twice, plan, return twice. Everything goes back to normal. So that's a much more sophisticated way of working in relation to something that's at an awkward angle. Less chance you'll make errors. The way we did this, there is chance for something to go wrong, something that doesn't end up perpendicular. It's much more likely. Okay, well what we're going to do now is draw a line around the room, a special type of line, so that we can measure the area. And I'd like this area's calculation to be done on its own layer, so I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, so using the drop down isn't any good here because I can't add an extra layer to the drawing. What I need to do is use the main layer properties dialog. So you can use this icon, or you can type in LA and return. Okay, the dialog box is a wee bit big here. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Okay, I want to create a new layer, so I use the first icon on this list, and I'm going to call it areas. I want to choose a color that will end up colored red. Okay, so I'm not going to use this. I'll need to explain this later on. Okay, the named colors, as well as color 8 and 9, are reserved for black line. Okay, everything above color 9, in the way I'm setting things up, will print in color. So I'm going to choose color 10 for my areas layer. It looks red, but it's got a slight tint of orange. Okay, so I find color 10 there, or I can type in the number 10 here, click OK. That works, and I want to make this the current layer so that everything that gets drawn next will be color 10 and on the areas layer. So you click the green tick and we're ready to go. This dialog doesn't have an OK or a close, you just click the X and that's it running onto layer areas now. So we're going to use a special type of line called a polyline, and that is activated with the PL command. PL and return. Okay, it's asking me where I'd like to start the line. Okay, I'm going to start at this corner of the room. Okay, now I'd like this line to look a fair bit different from anything else. I want it to actually have some width to it. So this is where I enter the width of the line. You'll see there's an option to add it just now. It's only after the first click will you get that offered. Oh, tell light, actually you might be able to change it all the way along. But so I enter the letter W now, so it's W and return, and I want the starting width to be 60 millimeters and the ending width to be 60. Notice it automatically added the 60 because it expects you to do this. Okay, now you can see that the line that's getting created is going to have this thickness to it, have this width to it, kind of fatter. Okay, pick this next point, which will be perpendicular or end point. Then we'll go over to the window ledge, pick up another perpendicular or end point, and you're allowed to move around transparently within this polyline command. It allows you to get in closer and choose different positions. Not all commands let you do this. Okay, so I go for my next perpendicular. It's giving me endpoint this time. Okay, then we've got the change in direction of the room there. Similarly, that corner across to the wall, and I'm on purposely going to miss the column. I'm going through the column to the bottom corner of the room. Okay, now this is me in a position that's one step back from the final position. Okay, so you notice there's a small white cross at the start point. Okay, so if you're happy with that, you can just type in the letter C and it will close the shape for you. And this makes it watertight, meaning that area calculation will be good, and if you filled it with a hatch pattern, that too would work very well. So C, return. When you do that, you notice that the corners get tidied up as well. It waits to do that at the end. Now, if I created a very complicated polyline and I missed out this column, I'd be pretty annoyed. Do I have to draw it all again? No, I don't actually. Newer versions of AutoCAD have the ability to add extra vertices into the polylines. So you click on the polyline and you'll see that as well as grips at the end points, we get a special midpoint one. Okay, it's slightly elongated blue rectangle. Now if you hover over that, you can add a vertex. Okay, so the line stays closed, but we're adding in some extra points along the way. Now it's a bit difficult to see on screen, but I'm looking for the end point where the yellow line would hit the column. So it's round about here. Okay, now instead of adding vertices using the above one, I'd be better to use the one below. So I find the halfway grip that allows me to add a vertex, hover over it, go to the add vertex button, and I can bring in another corner to put at this corner of the white column. And we keep doing that. Go to the one below, add vertex, find the end point, and then a final vertex lets me wrap around the column. Okay, press escape when you're happy, and we've got a polyline that wraps all the way around. So that's looking quite tidy. Now I just want to confirm what I do next. So it's the way the line looks is quite important. Okay, if it was just solid red like that, then it could get confused with something else. So let's make the layer be a different line type. Let's use something that we haven't used so far. Okay, so I'm going to try and bring in a new line type into the drawing. Now what I'll do is do this in the layers dialog for just this layer only. So I launch my layers dialog, my main one. There we go. You see here that along the line for layer areas have the word continuous. Click the word continuous and then have a look through the list of layers that you have there. Now this list might not be complete. At the moment in this drawing it is. Now let's say the line type I wanted wasn't in the drawing. Okay, so I want to use line type dash dot. Let's say it was not in this drawing at the moment. I would need to load it, and it's going to look in the AutoCAD ISO.lin file, which is the line type definition file. scroll down till you find dash dot. Okay, notice that the line types have basically three variants: dash dot 2, and dash dot x2. Okay, and these are just different sizes of gaps. So once you're using a type of line type, you should stick with that family. So in my drawing already there is center, so I should use the ones that don't have the extra bits on the name. So I'm going for dash dot. Okay, it says it's already in the drawing, but I'm going to reload it anyway. Okay, make sure you find it on the list, and then a final OK. Okay, so the layer now has a different line type than the rest. Close the dialog box, and we can see that the layer is now showing different line type. Okay, when it gets to short sections of line, it's struggling. It isn't able to show the dashes and the breaks around these. So there's no breaks in that bit, there's nothing around the column. So if I had a very short, a line that was changing direction regularly, that could be a problem. So what we can do is force the line type to show with its dashes all the way around. And you do that using the pedit command. Shortens to PE. PE, return. You pick the polyline that you're interested in. That's this one. And then we have the option here, line type generation. So it's L, return. And I want to switch it on. And when I press return now, just watch what happens with the shorter sections of line. They may or may not start showing the dashes. Okay, so it's more consistent all the way around the shape, just the way we would draw it by hand. Okay, the dashes that we can see here are a bit too big. Okay, so let's change the overall line type scale. Okay, so press escape because we're finished with pedit. And to change the overall line type scale, you use LTS and return. At the moment it's set to 50. Okay, if I want to see more dashes or more breaks, I make that number smaller. So let's say 35 and return. And you see how all the line types in the drawing adjust accordingly. Okay, line types and line type scaling is an area of AutoCAD that's not the best. It doesn't do things in any kind of logical form. Right, so the intention here was to find out how big this room is, so we want to measure the area of that shape. So we use the area command, so it's area, return. Picking points to measure areas is very, very tricky, and usually you'll end up forgetting where you've been or where you need to go next. So that's why we draw a polyline, so we can measure an actual object. So we use object, pick anywhere on the polyline, and we should get an area result. Okay, it's showing here that the area is 43 million square millimeters. All we do to get this back to meters is move the decimal place 6 points. So that room is 43.046 square meters. When you get a perimeter result, you move the decimal place 3 points. So this is 31.59 meters around that room. Okay, now that takes us to the end of section 2 of this particular tutorial. That's a good place to stop just now. The next section, section 3, we'll look at layout and plotting and annotation and how we deal with that. So we'll stop just here.